there are things we need to talk about. In this episode, we'll discuss keeping passion, especially sexual passion, alive in relationships. I'll present points one by one, explaining their application. We'll explore observations in couples during sessions and their impacts. Today, I'll share these insights with you, and especially what we observe or don't observe in couples during the sessions has a positive or negative impact. Today, I will try to share these with you again. Before we move on to the video, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, now after subscribing to the channel and watching the video all the way to the end, don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed it. Please, if you're ready, let's move on to the video. Now, first of all, we know this. Things that are monotone, ordinary things lose interest when they become monotonous. So think of a dish that you really love. When you eat it over and over, when you eat the same meal for days, your system no longer sees it as a reward. So it's not really possible to get the same pleasure by doing the same thing for years. Think of it like your favorite dessert. When you eat the same dessert continuously for a certain period of time and to the same degree, it will start to become repulsive. We call this tolerance. So how are we going to reduce this tolerance? In order to reduce tolerance, you need to miss it again. Miss it, no deprivation. You need to be deprived of this for a while. Of course, we don't want you to be deprived of this when it comes to sexuality. What we want is for you to be deprived of the parts that make sexuality monotonous and ordinary for a while. We want you to, when you do these things again, they should have some value. So the things you do, yes, they might have been very enjoyable at the beginning, but if you're not enjoying it right now, then stop doing those things for now. Please, and focus on the parts that give you pleasure for a while. Right now, we will talk about them. After that, if you want, you can bring back the parts that you initially did and that actually gave you pleasure for a long time. But first, as I said, in order to break this monotony, I will ask you to try replacing these elements with something else shortly. Now, of course, the first thing that comes to your mind, which also makes a lot of sense to me and is what I recommend first. Generally, to break this monotony, you should change the timing and places of sexuality. If you extend the reward, meaning the part where you can receive the reward is a bit further away, if you have the chance to send it to a certain time frame, then the tension here will also increase. So when you can't reach the goal you want to achieve, the motivation will also increase. The need for it will grow. So when you can't reach the goal you want to achieve, your motivation will also increase. The need for it will also increase. This doesn't mean it like this. So if you normally have sexual intercourse once or twice a week, of course, I won't say something like increase this to once a month and see how you miss each other. But here, especially if you can extend the foreplay part, therefore, this extended part can actually be considered as part of the sexual experience. But if you see sex as just a task that you do in between other things, especially if you've been doing it the same way and at the same time for years, then there's a problem here. Okay, so what's the first rule? The first rule, we will extend the foreplay part a little more and first change the place and setting. So go ahead and do this. Of course, I wouldn't recommend doing it in completely random places, but for example, here you have a transparent relationship where you can talk about your sexual fantasies as much as you want. If you can experience that, then you already have a relatively strong relationship. So you can share these sexual fantasies together. Of course, while doing this, let me not forget to add this. If even one of the partners feels uncomfortable about this part of sexual fantasy or the place or time of the sexuality, if there is any content, please refrain from doing this. And another shared fantasy that you both enjoy, of course. Try to find the right time or place, because this will be an enjoyable activity. It will be an activity that brings you closer together and connects you. We don't want one of you to struggle while doing this. So now sexuality is actually something that can connect us more and increase the hormones serotonin and oxytocin. So what is the oxytocin hormone? If you remember, we talked about this in previous videos. The hormone we call oxytocin is the one that creates that desire to stay connected to each other and keeps you wanting to be close all the time. And sexuality already provides this. Now, to make this happen, you need to kind of stoke this a little bit. I don't know if this has come to your mind, but I'm going to share it here. Recommendation. If you are doing things that both of you enjoy, you can enhance this connection. Mutual actions and longing lead to intimacy. Intimacy strengthens bonds through oxytocin, enhancing togetherness. So, in a situation where you feel good about each other, you want to spend more time together, and this is also turning more towards sexuality. As you turn more towards sexuality, you bond more with each other through the oxytocin hormone and feel better together. We want you to enter a cycle, but for example, what happens in the sessions you see, so if a couple is starting therapy, usually the communication between them begins to break down. When their communication breaks down, they touch each other less. Because they touch each other less, they end up having less sex. Less sex, because there is less oxytocin, they remain more distant from each other. And this cycle repeats, and if you bring the rhythm of experiencing sexuality down to a much rarer level for a certain period of time, so if you're having sex only about 10-15 times a year, that's like once a month. So this part of connecting with each other and consequently feeling good about each other will unfortunately be undermined. So that's why it's important to develop this collaboration between you and to really feel loved in this relationship and that you can bring excitement to it. Therefore, he also feels excited about what he does. What will enable this will also be beneficial for him. So you should be able to increase the things you do for that. You might be wondering how this will affect sexuality. Don't forget, this thing you call sexuality is something very special, and if you think of it as something that can only be shared between each other, I hope that's the case. This sharing between these two very special individuals can only happen in a beautiful and peaceful place. And it's beautiful and unique between you, like this, very happy. If it's not a pleasant relationship, therefore it won't be very appealing to share so much of your privacy with each other. So now think like this. Assume you know your partner, and find something that you think they would like. First, and this is something that I think you would like, I did this for you, or I thought of this for you. We want you to present it to them in a way that conveys the message. This is, of course, not just for being able to have sex. So, this is a piece of advice we give to keep your relationship more special and to keep it alive continuously. If the relationship is going well, you will move towards more intimacy and connection. Otherwise, you will drift apart. The message is to say yes to each other. And if you think of the opposite, you will gradually drift apart. So, the message I want to summarize here is to say yes to each other. I did this for you, and I think you will love it. I think it comes down to being able to offer each other certain things. And let's say that this aspect of sexuality has increased a bit. So as we just advised, if you extend the foreplay part of sexuality a bit more, so the tension and motivation there will increase, you will experience sexuality with greater pleasure and enjoyment. In the previous point you mentioned, if you remember, it was about changing the place and time and discussing your fantasies. I'm going to give it now. The advice will also activate your sexuality a bit more. This is also about touching each other. Of course, the hugs you share throughout the day are included in this, but aside from those hugs during the day, it can be the massages you give each other, like a head massage. It could be a neck and shoulder massage. The more you touch each other, the more you hug, the more you cuddle, and the more you kiss. You especially need to increase those parts. Sexuality isn't just penetration, it plays a key role in leading couples to orgasm in a complete union, but connection isn't just about orgasm or release stages, it's about enjoying the process and making each other feel special and valued. Therefore, share touches, maybe erotic ones, and develop fantasies. It's about enjoying the process together and making each other feel truly special and valued while doing these things. So, the touches you share with each other, maybe your erotic touches, and as we said, develop your fantasies. When you can openly express what you enjoy within your fantasies, perhaps you can share that you want to give each other massages or that you desire those erotic touches. So, we expect there to be greater pleasure in the sexual part you give to each other. That was the last point. I want to close with a tip and a clue to increase the possibility of experiencing sexuality. In a situation where couples don't spend time with each other, so there aren't many possibilities for experiencing sexuality or romance. It's a very classic thing that I see most often in the couples who come to the sessions. I often say this, especially, maybe I've shared this on Twitter or something. So the killer of your relationship, it doesn't have to be you or your partner. Sometimes the killer of your relationship can be your boss. What does this mean? So if you start working at 8 in the morning and work until 6 or 7 in the evening, then your arrival home. If you find yourself eating at 10 after getting home at 8 or 9 and you're just going to bed to get some sleep. And if you're getting up again in the morning to leave for work at 8 and you think about doing this for 6 days a week, so it means that there isn't even a space where you can get close to each other sexually. Forget about sexuality so that you can have conversations with each other, feel good together more, and share something in common. And actually, that's what you need. It's a family. What you said when you mention a team, a partner, there's simply no time left for you to accompany each other. And especially when you think about jobs with shifts or on-call work, for example, what is there? Here the most. There are pilots, or there are flight attendants, or there are doctors, and there are nurses. Just think about it. One of them is on call for 2 days a week. They are on call every 2 or 3 days, or they are flying. The problem is right here. If you're already getting together 7 to 8 times a month, then you are managing this relationship with more passion and romance. To be able to do that, you need to put in serious effort. You need to miss each other to break away from that monotony. You need to describe a serious effort to be able to do that. You know, at the top of the tips it gives you, you need to miss each other to break away from that monotony, right? You're already in a state where you miss each other. But when you come together for those 5-10 days in a month, you need to create opportunities for each other here. Look, if you wait for a scenario where you can do good for each other when you find the opportunity, unfortunately, the relationship is going to get much worse. So that you can do things together, well, to be able to make love, to be able to talk, to be able to go out, you need to plan something different. You need to schedule this in your calendar to be able to do it. That's why we say it every time. So it's not when you find the opportunity, you will only come together when you create an opportunity for this. And yes, when you come together, this special emotional bond between you will turn towards sexuality. This sexuality will enhance the special emotional bond you create. So again, here is the end. to be able to do things together in Tiom, to be able to have conversations, to be able to enjoy your time, to be able to rediscover something, you need to create opportunities for each other to experience intimacy. So you need to take that time you'll be together and add it to your calendar. There is a gap here. We don't want a part where you say, shall we do something? So, all right, let's see. I think things will start to get a bit better once you apply a few of these. Thank you for watching. See you in another video. If you liked it, please don't forget to hit the like button. See you soon. See you soon?